Hello there, world of tankers. Welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Droodles Blitz, and in today's video, we'll be taking a look at the SDPWZ-66 GROM. This Tier 8 Polish collector tank destroyer will most likely be released within the next couple months alongside the Polish Tech Tree line. Normally, Wargaming does this when the Japanese heavies were released into the game. We also had the Type 57, and with the Progetto, we also had the Progetto 46 as the Tier 8 premium autoloader. So I'm not sure if this vehicle is going to be released before the tech tree or after, but we can assume that they will be pretty similar time frames. Now, the GROM is one of the most overpowered tanks on World of Tanks PC. But that doesn't mean it's going to be overpowered in Blitz. The BZ-176 is probably the most overpowered tank on PC, and it's a pile of trash in Blitz. So it'll be interesting whether this vehicle is really good or not so good. Well, let's start off very briefly talking about the armor profile, because this thing has a lot of armor. And it has one more degree of gun depression than the Polish tank destroyer tech trees. All the tech tree tanks have 6 degrees of gun depression, but the GROM actually features 7 degrees. So on flat ground, this is the armor. It's about 259 millimeters thick. So against heat shells, let's get a vehicle that shoots heat, tier 8. How about a M3O. This vehicle has heat. Let's put on calibrated. It's got about 264 millimeters of armor on flat ground. Now we can actually compare that to the Kilana and this vehicle's frontal protection. We'll pull out the same M3Yo at tier 8 and we load gold. And as we can see, the frontal protection of the Kilana is definitely better. It's about 280 thick on flat ground. If you're running enhanced armor, it's upwards of 300 thick. And this vehicle with enhanced armor it's definitely less at about 280. So there's about 20 millimeters less frontal protection on this tank compared to the Kilana. The lower hull, though, is super thick. You actually don't want to shoot the lower half, as that's over 370. And the corners are also around 400 thick. So there's only going to be this thin bar on the left and right that you'll be able to pen. And by the way, this is on flat ground. Using gun depression, that weak spot now becomes upwards of 315 thick, meaning that unless you're in a tier 9, you're not really going to be able to pen this thing. It also has virtually no weak spots. There's no hatches. There's no actual weak point whatsoever when this tank is using gun depression. I guess you can shoot these little cutouts, but apart from that, this thing is going to be virtually impenetrable from any tier 7s and most tier 8s. Even tank destroyers are going to have a hard time cutting through this vehicle. So yeah, and that's a very small lower plate, to be honest. It's definitely not going to be a huge weak point. Not only is the armor on this thing crazy, but the gun is just ridiculous. We can see the Kilana's gun, and the Kilana does have more DPM, a lot more at 3,500. But what the Kilana doesn't have is the alpha. The Kilana is sitting at 476 damage per shot. The GROM is sitting at 518, and it still features 3,400 DPM. So with calibrated shells, you still have crazy good DPM and alpha damage. Now, just like the tech tree, this vehicle is going to deal less damage over distance. So at 50 meters, you're going to be dealing 518 damage. At 50 to 120 meters, you're going to be dealing 440 damage. And then at 120 meters to 200 meters, 370. And then at furthest, 296. That is a big damage drop-off. But you're still actually sitting at around 1800 DPM. The Kilana, as we can see at most, drops off to about 270 damage. So pretty similar overall. But yeah, the alpha damage on this thing is going to be really nice at around 520. You're going to be able to get some really nasty shots. And that module damage is insane. It's overpowered beyond belief. If you don't understand how good that module damage is, let me go to Blitzkit and pull out, something like the 183 really quickly. That's not the 183, that's the Sheridan. Tankopedia, Tank Destroyer, where is the 183? There it is. The 183's module damage is 244. So right now the GROM has more module damage than a 183. That's bugged. It's not bugged because I know Blitzkit doesn't get the values wrong. They just directly inject them from the game. But let's just fix it as in, I'm hoping Wargaming realizes that you can't give this tank 266 module damage and that they make it normal because that's way too high. With that being said, this vehicle is looking to be insane with the level of damage and everything else it has going for it. Dispersion-wise, it's not bad. It has really, really good on-move values. Its base dispersion isn't good, but, I mean, if you run Refined Gun, it's zero point 0.3. That's pretty accurate, to be honest, and all the on-move values are incredibly good right now. So this is, yeah, it's going to be a little insane. It has a top speed of 35 and a power-to-weight ratio that's not bad either. I'm going to say this right now. If the GROM comes into the game with this state of statistics, it will be one of the most overpowered tanks to ever hit the game. Maybe at the levels of the Annihilator and Smasher, maybe even more. I mean, the level of frontal protection this thing has is insane. No standard shells are going to pen you at tier 8. Nothing's going to be able to pen you at tier 7 to begin with. And when you pair that with literally some of the best on-movement dispersion values I've ever seen, dispersion itself that isn't that bad with Refined Gun, and 3,200 DPM with 518 damage per shot, this tank is going to be insane. So yeah, we'll have to see exactly what happens to this vehicle. I'm really hoping that Wargaming balances these tanks, because right now they are just, they're too good, dude. Either the armor needs to be stripped away or the guns need to have much bigger damage drop off, which is what I believe should be done. This gun should be dealing, you know, maybe 1400 DPM, maybe less at 700 plus meters to 200 meters. I think once you go down to 120 meters distance, even here, the damage should be like 350 instead of 440, and at this distance it should be like 290, and then 200 base damage at this level of distance, because right now these tanks have too much going for them. They're too dangerous. I mean, with adrenaline activated, this tank's gonna have 3,700 DPM at tier 8. That's just insane. But we'll have to see exactly what happens with these vehicles. Let's just hope Wargaming kind of collects their senses, because once they release a vehicle like this and it's a collector and it is this overpowered, they're not going to be able to nerf it because everybody's going to have it. So it's a tricky decision, but I can tell you that I really hope Wargaming nerfs these vehicles, because they're a little bit insane. Either way, that is the GROM. I want you guys to let me know in the comments what you think about this vehicle. It definitely seems busted. I mean, the side armor's not great, neither is the rear armor, but really, who cares? This thing, when you're on a ridge line, it's ridiculous, dude. It's going to be ridiculous. I am not excited for this vehicle to come into the game if it has these stats. I'm not. I'll be real. There's certain tanks which I'm excited for, and part of me is excited for the Polish tech tree, but I'm just really hoping that Wargaming balances them properly, because right now, as many of you have seen, the whole line is busted. Every single tank from tier 6 to tier 10 is stupidly strong, and if they get released in the way that they are currently, they're going to ruin the game. But we'll see. We'll see. We're going to have WZ-113 GFT syndrome at tier 6 to tier 10. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.